My neighbor thought he could control my yard, my life, my choices, all because of a few leaves that never even touched his property. And when he secretly crept into my yard to rake them up without my permission, that's when I decided to show him exactly who he was messing with. If you've ever dealt with someone who thinks the world revolves around them, you're gonna love what happens next. If you enjoy stories where justice isn't just served but handcrafted with the perfect dose of pettiness, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like so more people can witness this leaf-fueled showdown. And let me know in the comments if you've ever had a neighbor who thought your property was theirs to manage. All right. Let's dive in. My story begins with a man I've come to think of as a professional grump. You know the type, arms permanently crossed, eyes narrowed, and jaw clenched like life personally offended him. His entire presence screamed irritation, as if waking up every day was a burden he blamed on everyone around him. He lived right next door. For months, this man, let's call him Mr. Thorn, made it extremely clear that my yard was the bane of his existence. Specifically my leaves. The leaves that fell from my oak tree drifted into neat little natural clusters and stayed entirely on my side of the chain link fence. These weren't rogue, rebellious leaves parachuting into his lawn. They weren't climbing over the fence like tiny foliage ninjas. They didn't so much as lean in his direction, but every time he saw them, you'd think I had personally insulted his ancestors. I'd be watering my garden, minding my own business, and I'd hear the muttering, the grumbling, the passive-aggressive sighs that were loud enough to be a performance. Sometimes he'd stand at the fence, arms on his hips, staring at my yard like it was a crime scene. People these days, he'd say to no one in particular, no pride in their homes, no respect. He said it loudly enough that no one in particular was clearly me. At first, I ignored him. Because honestly, I don't rake my leaves on purpose. Those leaves protect overwintering pollinators. They enrich the soil. They're literally good for the environment. But that explanation would be lost on him. Mr. Thorn had one hobby, and one hobby only being furious. And he didn't just talk to me. Oh no. He talked to everyone. One day, the mailman stopped at my box, glanced at my yard, and said with a low whistle, "Wow, that guy does not like you." I blinked. "He talked to you about my leaves." The mailman shrugged. "He talks to everyone about your leaves." Fantastic. I had officially become neighborhood gossip topic Fanny 3, right behind Jenny's new boyfriend and old Mrs. Halpern's cat harding situation. Still, I kept to myself. I wasn't breaking any rules. I wasn't harming anyone. I wasn't even inconveniencing anyone. But to him, my yard was a personal attack. Then came the incident. It was a Tuesday, cold, windy. One of those days where the sky looks like wet cement. I had been out running errands for a few hours, and when I pulled into my driveway, something felt off. Very off. My yard was suspiciously tidy. Too tidy. The small, natural leaf-strewn areas near the side of my house, perfectly cleared. The thick, crunchy carpet under the oak tree, gone. The only leaves remaining were the ones not visible from the direction of his house. I got out of my car slowly, scanning the ground like someone had stolen furniture out of my living room. Who would? Then I heard footsteps. My other neighbor, sweet, sharp-eyed Mrs. Carver, was walking her dog. She saw me staring at the yard and said instantly, "Oh, honey, I saw it. He was in your yard." My stomach dropped. "Ooh, Thorn," she said, using his real name with a level of disdain I admired. "I saw him out here with his rake." Marching around like he was the king of autumn, I told him it wasn't his property, but he ignored me. He went into my yard. Without permission, without a word, without a reason besides his personal vendetta against nature. My fingertips tingled. My heart thumped hard enough to hear it in my ears. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was disbelief boiling into something hotter, sharper. Because there's something deeply violating about someone crossing onto your property to impose their preferences on your life. It's not just annoying. It's disrespect. It's entitlement. It's a declaration. What I want matters more than your boundaries. I walked to the side of my house, and sure enough, there it was. A giant, meticulously crafted pile of leaves, round the corner, hidden from his view. All the leaves that were visible to him had been relocated, because God forbid Mr. Thorn catch even a glimpse of a leaf daring to touch the ground. It wasn't the work of a helpful neighbor. It wasn't an act of kindness. It was control. It was obsession. It was him crossing a line. I stared at the pile for a full 10 seconds. And then I smiled, because if he wanted a war, he messed with the wrong neighbor. I waited until the sky went fully dark, the kind of dark where even the street lamps looked tired. I shut off my porch light, slipped on dark clothes, and quietly stepped outside. There was something deliciously dramatic about it, like I was a forest ninja reclaiming stolen territory. The air was crisp. The leaves were dry and rustled loudly when I touched them, so I cupped my hands and scooped them gently, trying not to laugh. And then I put every single leaf back under the oak tree, back along the fence line, back where nature intended, back in plain view of Mr. Thorne's window. Every handful felt like justice. Every scatter was a whispered, "Stay in your lane." It was peaceful, therapeutic. And by the time I finished, the yard looked exactly as it had before his trespassing. I went back inside, made myself a cup of tea, and slept better than I had in weeks. But the real reward came the next morning. At precisely 7:12 a.m., like clockwork, Mr. Thorne came outside for his morning smoke. I was standing near my kitchen window, waiting like a child on Christmas morning. He stepped onto his porch, flicked on his lighter, took one drag. Then he looked at my yard. He froze. His cigarette dangled from his fingers as he leaned forward, squinting like his brain couldn't process the scene. His head tilted left, then right. Then he leaned even closer. And then it started, the cussing, loud, colorful, varied, creative. He threw his hands up, kicked at the dirt, paced back and forth, muttering words that would make a sailor blush. He was livid, absolutely incandescent with rage. And I stood inside sipping my tea, bathed in the warm glow of beautiful, delicious, 100% organic petty revenge. Because sometimes justice comes not with grand gestures, but with putting things exactly back where they were. In the days that followed, he never mentioned the leaves again. Oh, he still glared at me. He still stomped around like life personally inconvenienced him. But he never set foot on my property again. And the leaves, they remained, right where they belonged. There's something powerful about reclaiming your space, about quietly but firmly setting a boundary, about reminding someone that entitlement has consequences. Because the truth is, people like Mr. Thorne don't hate leaves. They hate losing control. They hate when the world doesn't bend to their preferences. They hate the reminder that everyone else has the same right to exist exactly as they are. And sometimes the best way to deal with them is not with confrontation, but with a calm, calculated, beautifully subtle act of resistance. If you've ever had a neighbor, coworker, or relative cross a line and treat your life like it's theirs to manage, remember these boundaries don't always need to be shouted. Sometimes they can be whispered. Sometimes they can rustle like leaves in the night. And sometimes the quietest revenge is the most satisfying of all. If you enjoyed this story of poetic, petty justice, hit that like button. It helps this channel grow more than you know. Subscribe for more stories where the underdog gets the last laugh. And tell me in the comments, what's the pettiest, most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? I'd love to hear it.